And it's hard for people because, like myself, I came to the realization that I can't do that. I can't ride that well. My body's not designed that way.
That's
It's like,
incredible
yeah,
physiological
yeah.
characteristics.
I get it. Everybody wants to be, the superhero, the best type thing.
Yeah.
And it's just you got to come to the realization of yourself and what you can do and what you can't do. And if you get into that, you can do amazing things. And what I mean by that for me, back in the day in the 80s, it was to ride long distance. And I got involved with a friend at work, and he lived out in the valley there in Los Angeles Basin area. And we meet at the CSUN University there and go with their bicycle group. And there were a lot of semi-pro and a couple of pro riders that would show up intermittently. And I never knew what we were going to do. I mean, it wasn't like we had the internet and CSUN would say, well, here's what we're going to do today. And I'd show up, and then next thing I know, I'm doing, a 100-mile bike ride out to Oxnard and back, which is by the coast.
Yeah.
Below Santa Barbara. And it's like, okay, and in those days, you didn't have a cell phone. You can't track yourself on the road. And I can remember being on Los Angeles Highway. It was like 106 degrees outside on the highway.
Wow.
And cutting into a 7-Eleven just to get some water and whatnot, and then buying a map so I could find my quickest way back.
Yeah.
And I mean, literally grabbing like an ice popsicle, a couple of them just to eat them to cool my body temp down.
Yeah.
And you just do it.
Yeah.
I've had incidences where out there, in fact, this happened in Oxnard, probably about 15 miles out of the city. I hit something and I popped a couple of, my rim kind of bent a little bit and I lost some spokes. I went, okay, so I got off and pulled the wheel off and kind of used my foot to even it out as best I could. And I didn't have the tools to take apart the spokes and whatnot, so I ventured to the nearest gas station and found a local bike shop open, thank God.
Yeah.
And pulled out some cash because I don't think I had a credit card at that time. But they fixed my wheel and I pedaled my way back, and everybody in the group was long gone. And so I was on my own. But those were the days. I mean, it was really, really adventurous.
Yeah.
Some other times I went with a church that my family used to go to, and it was a group my age, and we went from like the Redondo Beach area down to San Diego, which was over 100 miles, and they decided they would split it up, which was fine, and we stopped and spent the night at a beach and did that, and that was really fun, actually.
That sounds cool.
And then I had another friend at work. For older people like me who were into cyclocross or whatever, this guy, his name was Sean Levesque, and they used to call him on the motorcycle tour Leaping Sean Levesque. And he rode a mountain bike with me, and we left, I don't know, about 2 a.m. from where we lived in Redondo, and we cycled PCH Highway all the way down to his brother's house in Mesa, San Diego.
Wow.
And that ended up being 156 miles in one day.
Wow.
And thankfully we stopped, and had lunches and stuff like that, and just kind of kept going. But his dear wife picked us up in San Diego, and we went out and had a steak dinner, and both of us fell asleep going back to LA. So
that's not particularly flat territory either, is it? I mean, that's
it's up and down. I mean, it's not any gigantic mountainous climbs, but when you get into the San Diego area, you're going up and downhill.
Yeah.
And him being, I stayed with him because he was on a mountain bike, and he had knobby tires on. They were kind of worn down, but it's still like, how are you doing this?
Right.
Right. And he wouldn't give up, but he was a stud. I mean, I couldn't believe it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what are your next goals what are your hopes for Next Step Legacy this year? Like, is there something I can do to help you out? Is there
just sitting here chatting this way, it kind of gives me the opportunity to do that. I've been wanting to do interviews, with
Mm-hmm.
other groups. So to me, this is kind of breaking the ice for me.
Cool.
Um, what I want to do with Next Step Legacy is really get into the information aspect of affiliate marketing and expose it to everybody
Mm-hmm.
and still maintain the cycling community.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to, uh, for my affiliate business, not selling to the group, but for my affiliate business, I've gotten a hold of, I guess it's Flow Bikes, and they're going to present on the internet, and I think it'll be on TV where they'll stream it.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll have a lot of the cycling events. And one of my things with back in the 80s, I was so upset that we didn't have the representation, and we still don't. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I would love to get more of that available to everybody that enjoys cycling. You know, not everybody's going to get to go to Europe or Australia or wherever they have the events,
Right.
down in Mexico or wherever. And this is an opportunity that they can see something live.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've been watching through my sources a lot of the cyclocross stuff. I got involved in that from a spectator aspect.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm wearing my cyclocross jersey. You can't see it unless I stand up. But um, in Reno, they had the international or the nationals here in Reno in 2018, the 2018 or 2017. At any rate, it was on my way to work every day. I'd drive by the park. I was like,
Yeah.
oh God, they're doing cyclocross. So I stopped and started looking, and it's like, oh my God, they're doing the nationals. How did that happen? And I'm telling you, I watch the news here in Reno.
Yeah.
I read, newspapers, and nothing
Yeah.
was represented about it. Not a thing.
Yeah.
Until it was all said and done, and then they had a little blip on the news.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, how ridiculous this is. And there were people there that I met that were trying to do a magazine. They bummed me for $50 to help them, start a magazine. I said, sure, why not? And I got to see. Oh gosh, you're killing me because I don't remember names very well.
All right. I don't either. Didn't think I'd quiz you on all this stuff, huh?
No, I didn't. She's famous in cyclocross. She's like the U.S. national champion for like 15 years in a row.
Yeah.
Katie Compton.
Okay. Yeah.
And I got to take pictures of her after the race and whatnot while she's doing interviews and things like that. And I have a little bit of a personal issue with space. And so I want to respect their privacy, and like she's there warming down and trying to get, rehydrated and all that. It's like, yeah, I could go over there and bug her with her husband and all her crew there, but she needs to have her time to do her thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, I'll just leave it alone. And then there were a couple other people, and I had my daughter with me, so I had just blatantly introduced her to some, to get her more involved in cycling because she won't. And but I got her skiing, so that was one positive.
There you go.
But any rate, that was really an adventure, and I ended up taking time off work. I took vacation time off of work just so I could go down there and watch the races, and then stay afterwards and see the award ceremonies and things like that. And then that year, I got to see them on television race over in Europe.
Okay.
And it's amazing how good they are. But when you get over to Europe, it's like it's another scale of athlete. Yeah. And then just the talent that's over there is just amazing. So I don't know how deep those people go with, mental pain and things like that, but they're just unbelievable. Yeah. And having them go into the peloton, on the off season, so to speak, really changed the peloton quite a bit. So last year was really kind of fun. It diced things up for me anyway, to see that.
Yeah.
But boy, that's cyclocross is an amazing thing to do. I ran cross country in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and so I kind of know what that's like, but I don't know what it's like to get on and off a bike, hopping over everything and trying to go through the sand and all that. And
Yeah.
that takes quite a person to do that.
Those guys are crazy.
But have you tried it?
I haven't. No, I've watched guys do it.
Yeah.
It's like all the hard things about mountain biking, gravel biking, mixed in with like some very dirt bike-esque kind of things too, where you're doing, small jumps and things like that. It's just
Right.
it's a little bit of everything. It's nuts.
So are you mainly a mountain biker?
I am mainly road and gravel is a lot of what
Really?
I do. I do a lot of road and gravel. Most of the groups that I run are primarily gravel groups here in Kansas City. So, you talk about like one of my long-term goals. So like right now I'm just trying to start this project up and just talk to people and, meet people and develop kind of blend myself in with the local community here. And but like long term, one of my goals is to start doing and going to some of the group events and races and stuff like that. Because basically, I mean, the biggest race here in the Kansas City area is the Garmin's Unbound Gravel event. It used to be Dirty Kansas. It's the 200-mile ride they do in like late July, I think it is, or August, early August,
Yep.
something like that. And it gets a lot of attention, partially because Garmin funds it, and so Garmin's got a lot of money behind them, so they put a lot.
Oh yeah.
But and so it's a pretty big event down there. I think it's Emporia, I think is where it's at. Anyways, it's out in Kansas, and that generally gets a reasonable amount of attention. But outside of that, like there's basically nothing. And I mean, I don't know what it's like out. I mean, there's always been a pretty big cycling culture, from what I understand, kind of out on the West Coast, kind of out in the LA area. But here in Kansas City, that's really not been the case, and it's really started to change a lot in the last 2 or 3 years with COVID and a lot of the trail development. Jackson County Parks and Rec has done a ton of work in Kansas City developing trails, and I kind of talked to them about that a little bit. And that has really built up a lot of more bike culture here in Kansas City. Well, the community and news and information component of that, which always lags, right? Because you always have to have the people there before you have the need for the information, right? That's kind of lagging behind it. So my hope is by getting involved in that, I can provide some